Hello and thanks for joining me for some more landscape photography, and today, as you can see, I'm back in the mountains. Now I'm on the Yr Wyddfa Ranger path, which is one of the two quieter paths that wind up from the opposite side of the mountain from the more busier areas of Llanberis and Pen y Pass. Now I've only been walking for about 20 minutes, but I've already found what I think might be an interesting composition. It's a shot that I've made before in, I must admit, better light. However, what I've got today is drama in the clouds. So even though they're supposed to break up later and, you know, I'm hoping that the light will get better, at the moment I'm happy to take advantage of that drama. Let me show you what I mean. So what's happening with this is that the moist air being blown up the Irish Sea is condensing out on the opposite flank of the mountain and then getting pushed up across the summit in something of a plume, and that's set against the higher clouds behind it, creating some contrast and kind of moving up into the top corner of the frame, almost as a reflection, as I've got this path running down from the bottom corner. It's quite a simple image from an exposure standpoint. I've got the lake slightly polarized. I want a bit of light bouncing off it, but not as much as completely unpolarized. I've got a 0.9 soft grad on because the shadows on this flank of the mountain are pretty deep, so I'm going to want to make sure that I can expose for those shadows and not clip the sky. It's a really easy exposure. I'm shooting with my 12mm prime lens at f5.6, ISO 200, 1/25 of a second. One thing I am struggling a little bit with is I've only brought my ultra lightweight tripod because I didn't want to be lugging heavy gear up onto the ridge. It works fine. It's not particularly windy today. It's just that I just don't get on with ball heads. I've been trying to level it and thinking how easy it would be just to nudge one of the grips on my geared head. Anyway, I've got that one in the bag. Let's head on up a bit further and see what else we can find. The thing about the Yr Wyddfa Ranger path is that it's not technical at all. For the most part, it's got a really easy surface. There is a little shoulder climb as you get up on towards Bullglass where it's more uneven, but it's not technical. But the very bottom part, where this path zigzags up to gain that first bit of elevation, is nothing but a really, really miserable slog. You kind of push yourself on because you know that once you've got past the zigzags, it levels out and the views are absolutely spectacular. Well, now I'm up on the plateau where the ranger path splits off This way taking you up towards the summit of Yr Wyddfa, and this way through the pass over to Llanberis. Now I was planning to take this path towards Llanberis and then head off up onto the ridge of Moel Cynghorion because I was after shooting Yr Wyddfa. The problem is Yr Wyddfa is completely clagged in, and despite the weather forecast saying that it should have all broken up by now, which was what I was relying on when we set out earlier on, it's actually clagged in a lot worse. It's pretty heavy drizzle, and I'm not entirely sure there's much point in heading up to where I'd originally intended to spend a couple of hours. So plan B, I'm going to hang around just here by this junction. There's a little stream so I can fill up my water pouch and filter some water and have a spot of lunch, and then we'll see how things are looking. Well, I must admit, as picnic spots go, this is pretty decent. The worst of the drizzle seems to be holding off. I found a handy little pair of rocks where I can shelter my stove while I boil some water for my orzo pasta bolognese. The hell is orzo? Absolutely no idea, but these little fire pot meals are really good. I don't normally bring a hot meal with me when I'm out and about, but rarely for me these days. I'm sort of out all day. The clag isn't really clearing up as much as I'd hoped, but from this spot here I've got a really cracking view over to Agarn and Mynydd Drws y Coed. From this angle it's kind of like Twin Peaks, and I think there might be a photograph in that after I've had lunch. But I haven't made my mind up about heading up onto Moel Cynghorion. We'll see how it pans out. I'm in no rush, I've got all day. I'm in an absolutely beautiful part of the world, so whether or not I manage to make any photographs is entirely irrelevant. Well, it's properly raining now. Could end up like trip out I did before Christmas on Penr Olwen in the blizzard. I was waiting it out and then gave up by the time I got back down to the valley floor. It had cleared up and the light was absolutely spectacular. But yeah, the clag has dropped probably 200 meters while I was eating my orzo pasta, which by the way was absolutely fabulous, highly recommended. A tip if you're using these fire pot meals is bring some salt and pepper with you. I think they deliberately under-season them so that you can season to taste. So I've always got a few sachets in my bag that I lift from the likes of McDonald's and Burger King whenever I'm passing. I'm going to wait it out. I'm not going to bottle it. It's only about 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and frankly, if I sat in this little spot for 2 hours, I wouldn't be at all miserable. The views are fabulous. I'm looking down towards Llyn y Gada over at Eryri. Those Twin Peaks I told you about previously are now completely hidden. But the mountains have a habit of changing quickly. This could blow through in 20 minutes and a few shafts of light start breaking through, and you know, I know I'm trying to convince myself. Anyway, this little spot, as it happens, has got 1 or 2 potential compositions with some foreground. The little stream here that I filled my water bottle from kind of leads down across to the interesting peaks on the other side of the valley, and I can use that as foreground. So what I'm going to do is I'm not going to waste my time sitting here. I'm going to have a bit of a scout round with the camera and just sort of have a look at what I might do in terms of composition, assuming the light clears up. So what I've been doing is just kind of moving around this area here. I've got this gully, some quite interesting shapes and angles. There's boulders. I mean, right now there's absolutely no background, but with the background as well, this is a really good spot. So I've just been moving around. I've got my 25mm lens on just to see how things look framed up at sort of standard focal length, and then I can adjust backwards and forwards from that. I've also got my phone, and I'm still using that app that I talked about when I was down at Dol Badarn called Viewfinder. That's really helpful because you can just play around with focal length. But I think that I definitely think it's worth hanging around. If this clears up even just a little bit, it's going to be worth getting the tripod out and getting set up. Got nowhere better to be at the moment. See, those mountains looked absolutely fabulous about an hour ago. So another hour has passed. It's only got wetter. You can probably see behind me. That's pretty much the view of what I was going to be looking to shoot this afternoon. But this whole area that I've been exploring for foregrounds is brilliant. I've definitely be coming back here. I was kind of thinking about getting down low and shooting through these lovely juncaceous soft reeds. And there's a beautiful line of pebbles covered in bright lichen to lead you through the composition across to Beddgelert Forest and Agarn. But yeah, an hour has passed. Doesn't look like it's going to break up at all now. I might have to call it a day. I think I've got 2 or 3 images that will be worth sharing with you at the end if you can stick around for that, or just jump forward and have a quick look. But I'm going to have one more coffee. I've lost count how many coffees I've had since I've been up here now, and then we'll make a decision. Well, I've had a look at the weather forecast. I managed to get a signal by just walking up the ridge a little way, and looks like this is it for today, so I'm gonna call it off. I did take a picture of that foreground I was banging on about, so I'll share that with you, and then you can just imagine how the background might look on a more spectacular day. But I'm gonna have to leave it there for this one. Thank you ever so much for joining me. Really hope you've enjoyed it despite it being curtailed. And if you did, why not subscribe and join me next time. Cheers.